Super Bowl.
No,
Okay,
I wouldn't go that
hey,
far.
let's do this thing, guys.
would?
We're back.
Ah.
It is our Super Bowl show. The ultimate, well, I guess it's the penultimate because we're gonna do a live show on Sunday, and
This is the
you know,
pre-Super Bowl show.
maybe
Prepping the audience.
maybe the pre-penultimate if we do a post-season. Anyway, it's one of the last shows.
No, but
of
it
the
is our
season.
penultimate Super Bowl.
It's our
show.
penultimate Super Bowl show,
You were correct
exactly.
there.
So
Wow. Yeah.
that's
Penultimate?
Penultimate.
Yeah.
It's the second to last.
I took the
Second
SATs.
class.
How about you? Yeah.
I can't remember.
Okay, we're coming at you from Golden Harp. Got the signage right up there in Vienna, Austria. As always, I'm your host Joel Turpin. With me today, Katie Eichhorn, Big Dave Asselin, Philly Chris Burdett. We are missing, unfortunately, our combatant, one of our prime combatants for this week, Mark Bartman. However, he's resting up. He's getting ready for the live show on Sunday, so he can really lay into it with Dave.
A little
Mano a
rope-a-dope
mano,
maybe, huh?
cage match style. So once we get the video of that, you guys are going to want to tune back in and check it out. In the meantime, we'll give Dave a little warm-up action here and discuss the other side of the coin here. And we're going to talk a little bit about the games that we saw last week, and we're going to let Katie kick it off with the NFC Championship recap.
Well, one hell of a game, my friends. We were sitting, most of us together, watching this, saying, it's in the bag. Green Bay comes out, charging, guns blazing, 16-0 at the half, and we thought it was maybe said and done. If you tuned out at that point, you missed one hell of a comeback, namely the biggest comeback ever in a conference championship game, knocking out a game that Dave wants to forget desperately, namely a 21-6 comeback by the Colts in 2006. But this now, the 16-point comeback, has surpassed that as the biggest comeback ever, including going into overtime, which made it all the more riveting. If you'd never watched, if you're not a big football fan, this would have been a game to tune into, to really get into it. You got to see trick plays, you got to see long drives, you got to see all factors of the game in one go. We had the top scoring offense in the league in Green Bay, or excuse me, in Seattle, against the team that lets the least points be scored against them in Green Bay. So we knew we thought it was gonna be a grudge match.
I somehow think those are flipped.
But regardless, we know
I
exactly what you're talking
It was
about.
the best
Katie.
of two
Exactly,
ends that
correct.
made us think it was going to be a little more of a stalemate than it ended up being
Quite a stalemate.
Quite a
Quite a
stalemate
stalemate,
by going
yeah.
into overtime. But the
Yeah.
first half led us astray in our thinking.
Correct.
Anyway, let's just skip ahead to the second half because that's where the ball really
Action
gets
Jackson.
rolling, as it were. The fake field goal. I say
Brilliant.
it was the most well-executed fake field goal I've ever seen.
It was really good.
It was really awesome. So we have Holder, Jake Ryan, throw a... You know, we have a couple of teams looking for quarterbacks in the offseason. You might think about taking Seattle's Holder.
Joel,
Yeah?
Chiefs.
Yeah.
Or Edelman from the Patriots.
Chiefs.
Yeah, I think
Alex Smith.
Edelman and this Seattle punter both have more touchdown
think-
passes to a wide receiver than Alex Smith does. And I think
Ryan
he
Lindley
does
might
that.
need to watch out for his job because watch out, Seattle's placeholder is coming for it. Anyway,
Okay.
so basically what it all comes down to, we're going to go tit for tat with Seattle scoring 2 touchdowns, a very tired-looking Rodgers coming back down the field to kick a field goal and put us into overtime. Rodgers looked hurt. And we knew he was battling an injury, but he looked deflated somehow. It's a segue for later.
That's all right. We can never get enough of those jokes.
Anyway, and basically, Jermaine Kearse ends up coming up big in overtime for Seattle, much as he did last year in the game to beat San Francisco to go in, the same title game to beat San Francisco last year. That means he's had 4 touchdowns in a row in a postseason game. They had a number of players to watch, actually. Very interesting. Lynch, 157 yards. He looked powerful, and he was basically the only consistent force
Agreed.
Seattle had.
I think Seattle's secondary looked vulnerable during the game as well, except for maybe the last half of the last quarter.
I said it looked like a battle of resilience, but not necessarily skill. I was kind of contemplating after the game, and I said, neither of these teams really deserved the win. Seattle brought out what it needed to at the very end. But if you look at that game as a whole,
No.
Seattle did not play a complete game. They played a number of good drives that just ended up being enough to get them over the top. And I say Green Bay killed themselves. It was their game to lose when being up 16-0. It was their game to lose. And they conservative play calling, really conservative. We questioned their second choice to kick a field goal, still in the first half. Twice they were at 4th and inches. Twice they settled for a field goal. The first time I said, okay, put points on the board. It's still early. The second time, in retrospect, hindsight being 20/20, you say, maybe that wasn't your best call. They played conservatively. Seattle did not, and they came out on top.
Yeah, the conservative play calls that bugged me more were just the ones at the end of the game where they, just ran Eddie Lacy up into the line 3 times and didn't try to do anything interesting. Didn't really do anything to take time off the clock. All they needed was a first down, basically, where they got the interception and they, get down, don't run back for 25 yards and change the field position. These things all added up, and they really hurt. Yeah, Green Bay really... Seattle came back and took the game from them, but Green Bay did their best to give it back to them there at the end. And really, it might have been a completely different game had Russell Wilson not played so completely horribly for the first 3.5 quarters. But, when you have gifts like that time and again and you don't capitalize on them, you're asking for it.
Well, I don't think it was more of a Seattle comeback more than a Green Bay meltdown.
Yeah.
Especially in the last 5 minutes. They contained Russell Wilson, and I'm sure Bill Belichick is going back looking at the tape from the Green Bay defense this past week, all week long. I sent you an article about how much homework this guy does, Belichick.
Yeah.
And you watch how they contained Russell Wilson for 56 minutes, not 60 minutes.
Yep.
And another point of this game, and I mentioned it to Chris on both occasions, where they chose, instead of going for that 4th down goal and goal, they decided to kick a field goal. And Chris, I think you mentioned to me that that might come back and haunt them at the end of the game.
Yeah, it's funny. I know a lot of people were really in favor of the first field goal just to get the points on the board. I was actually the opposite, and I was just like, gosh, I don't know. It's not like you're 4th and inches at the 10 or something like that, and if you don't get it, it's 4th and inches, try to punch it into the end zone there. Obviously, hindsight's 20/20. It's easy for us to say now as well, knowing what happened in that football game. It would have been a completely different ball game at that point. Really probably out of reach for Seattle, which we actually thought it was going to be anyway.
But I think what was significant, that was just indicative of how conservative his play calling went, and that's a great bellwether for the rest of the way that they played that game. And meltdown is certainly not an inappropriate word.
I think it was more of a Green Bay meltdown because once Wilson was contained literally the entire game, 56 minutes. In the last 4 minutes, you saw where he threw the 2-point conversion.
Yep.
And Clinton Dix goes for the tackle, and he's standing right there instead of going for the knockdown.
Yeah.
There were a bunch of little plays.
I guess we haven't really talked about the onside kick in its entirety at this point. The fact that the football is going right at the hands team, the tight end, who's apparently also not supposed to touch the football in that
supposed
scenario.
To block, yeah.
And he's just supposed to block to get it to Jordy Nelson or Randall Cobb. I assume he was in the football game at that time as well. But, and the football literally went right through the guy's hands.
Hit him in the
just
face.
Absolutely ridiculous. Smacks off his face mask. And obviously, even in those scenarios, the fact that Seattle's actually able to recover the football, it's just to add insult to injury in that football game. And if somebody would have told me at the beginning of that game that Russell Wilson would have had 4 interceptions and Seattle would have given the ball up 5 times in total in that football game, and they still would have ended up winning that football game, no. At the same time, if somebody tells me that they hold Aaron Rodgers to 178 yards in the air, 2 interceptions, I also would have said, no way can they win the football game.
This is why nobody deserved to win.
This is my point, because I left that game going,
yeah.
Well, it's just how the game ended, but it didn't feel like it really fit either.
Yet in the end, one of the most exciting football games that I have. Listen, I've seen some dramatic comebacks. Brian Westbrook returning football kickoffs for touchdowns to beat the Cowboys and just crazy stuff like that. For me, this is one of the most exciting football games I've ever seen in my entire life.
It would have been a great teaching.
And we saw it together.
Yeah.
It was great.
It was a great teaching game for people new to the game who had absolutely no vested interest in either team to just watch interesting things happen.
A little credit to a little I'm not defending Rodgers, but Rodgers did say after the game, he says during the fourth quarter he could barely hear his first. He couldn't hear a thing. Making calls,
and he was
the
wobbly.
line.
And he was wobbly as well. I mean,
that 12 was so loud in there. Rodgers
And
said,
watching him run out of bounds on that one
man.
play.
He didn't run.
Where
He gimped
there were
out
like
of bounds.
30 yards in front of him, and he barely made 10, just kind of gimping on one leg out. The guy's a gamer. In some ways, I'm glad they're not in the Super Bowl because I think that would have been a really tough matchup for him to go and do that again. I think we're going to have a better game, a better matchup with Seattle and New England.
Yeah.
So, New England, I'd say, Seattle, just to give them credit, one place they looked really good was on the ground. And when they gave it to Lynch, there was not a lot of tackling going on. I mean, really, Lynch was a beast. He was tearing through, he was pushing, he was shedding tacklers. And late in that game, I kept saying, you know what? It's 3rd and 8. Give it to Lynch.
Yeah.
Don't throw the ball. You know, and they would give him to him, and he'd be pulling up 10, 12 yards per run, and
It was about the only consistent thing on the Seattle offense that day.
Credit to Pete Carroll there that he did not go away from Lynch late in the game when most coaches would have, and it actually worked out for them quite well. So that was.
Yeah, I also think maybe Green Bay was also expecting something else on third.
They were, of course, but still, most coaches would have gone away from a running game at that point.
You know, and I think we talked a little bit about as well. I disagree a little bit with your assessment of the fact that the secondary didn't look that great. I mean, think about it. They gave the ball up 5 times out of Seattle. And the fact then to
Which
only
secondary? You're talking about the Seahawks.
Seahawks secondary. The fact that they were then they only gave up 22 points in that football game against the Green Bay Packers, from my side of things, was really, really impressive. I mean, 5 field goals and 1 touchdown. I mean,
From that top scoring
offense. From that top scoring offense.
There you go.
Exactly. Okay. Well, that's enough about the NFC title game for the moment. Let's move on, and I'm going to give a quick recap of the AFC title game, minus the most important talking point, which we'll discuss afterwards. New England, 45, the Indianapolis Colts, 7. And this is not one of those games where you look back and you say, gosh, it's a lot closer than it sounds, because it wasn't. It was a blowout. It was ugly. It was boring to watch. And,
depending on which side of that.
Even so, at one point in time, you had to been like, oh
my gosh,
we had to score another touchdown.
So
all right, I'll take it.
early on, the Pats looked dominant. They came out, they scored 14 points quick, and there was a fumble from the Colts side. And as soon as you saw that fumble, you're already thinking, gosh, these guys really needed to come in to Foxborough and play a perfect game to have a real chance at this. And that just set the tone. And you're like, okay, they're in trouble. Now, to the Colts' credit, in the first half, they did make a bit of a game of it, based mainly on Tom Brady throwing an interception.
Thank you, John.
Down near the goal line. Colts came back. They scored 1 touchdown, their only touchdown of the game, to make it 14-7 before the Patriots put up another 3, 17-7 at the half. I don't know anybody that was looking at that score and thought, gosh, this is going to be a game, because I think at that point Andrew Luck's mom turned off the TV. She's like, this is over. It's just one of those things. If you were watching it, because to me the most significant part of this game was not that Tom Brady threw 3 touchdowns and to 3 different receivers, which was nice and solid.
And ran for a touchdown.
And nothing that we don't expect. But it was LeGarrette Blount and their complete inability to tackle this guy. How much credit do you give to him? How much credit do you give to the Colts defense? But when he would run the ball, you would just see guys, he was pushing guys off on them like they were second graders. It was crazy. There was one play I remember very specifically. I was sitting there watching with Katie's husband, Nikki, and we're watching it, and there are like 3 Colts not just trying to tackle him, but there were like 2 of them laying on his back, and they weren't heavy enough to tackle him.
Smoke him if you got
it. It was crazy. And he's just
pushing
forward.
Dragging people
He's like,
along.
You ever see those competitions where they've got like a big, strong guy pulling like this just heavy sled full of... That's what it looked like. He's just like, pulling forward on the ground.
World's strongest man.
Yeah. And you got the Colts on his back.
Larson.
But he's not from Iceland.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just different.
His name is not Magnus Magnus. Magnuson, and
Exactly.
he's not pulling a bus with his abs. But
really,
it looks
yeah.
that he might be able to.
And you're thinking, gosh,
maybe in the off season.
who let this guy go this season and last season and the season before that? He's been let go by 3 different teams, including New England in recent times. And you're wondering, God, he looks like one of the best backs ever right now in this game.
Sometimes it's just chemistry.
Yeah, it's chemistry, and I think a lot of it was the Colts' lack of defense. But you know, you've got to have both sides of the ball there. In the end, there's just not much to say about this game except for the Pats dominated in every facet of the game. You know, you take away that interception, and it might well have been a shutout. It was that dominant performance.
What people didn't realize, and we mentioned this with the Colts before, Katie, we talked about this when the Browns were playing them. You know, the Colts have never really played a good over 500 team the entire season. Their wins are coming with the Browns, and they're coming with the they're coming with Tennessee, etc. Yeah, sorry. My point being is they really never,
They lost
other
to the
than
Philadelphia
Denver,
Eagles.
yeah, other than the way that when they went into Denver and won their right to go to New England, they really didn't play these caliber teams and win the entire season. They won against the Titans. They won against the Texans, things like this.
It makes a difference.
But I think they won it. I think it's the offensive line of the Patriots. I mean, there were some concerns about when their rookie center Stork went out a couple weeks ago, but Vegan moved over, which he played center before, and the Patriots have got a solid offensive line, and that blasted holes for Blunt, which I think is going to be one of the key matches in this coming Super Bowl.
I'm very curious to see
because
how
it definitely
Seattle
should be.
handles him.
Definitely
That'll be
should be.
very interesting to me.
I say just one really quick thing to me about this football game. I actually didn't watch the football game because I was on I was grounded.
Yeah.
For that.
Well,
for
sometimes
that game.
you got to get home. It
You know what I
was
mean?
late. Here.
I mean,
Yeah, I saw the SMSs
was
coming
like
in like it was like every first
12:30
down. Beep, beep,
kickoff, I
beep, beep,
believe.
beep.
So
12:30
with
kickoff.
that being said, the fact that I didn't watch the football game, I will say
Really?
the following. To me, this was classic 2014 season Colts, and that was the inconsistency. They lived and died all season long by the pass. Obviously, the fact that they weren't able to get that. Andrew Luck had a super up and down season. First half of the season, this guy's God. He's going to be the best guy ever. Followed by these games where he had quarterback ratings of whatever. This one was 23. And when you go against a New England Patriots team coached by arguably the worst coach, one of the best coaches ever, you can't expect to win a football game strictly through the air. And I mean, it was all written out there for them, and what else can you really expect out of this football game? I, of course, went for the Indianapolis Colts in my prediction, but that was also just to give this guy a little bit of a hard time.
It was just because I so desperately wanted them to win that. But I think the Colts, we've mentioned it before, the Colts, I think, are a season away, or 2 seasons away possibly, from being very, very good. They're building, they're growing. They've shown strength in places, they're just not consistent. I don't think they're gelled yet, but I think they have the potential to be a really something to watch.
And they
have
need
an
good
owner-
drafts.
and
They
they
need to
have
bring
a-
in some good people.
And they have
they're
a
short
great
of personnel.
ownership. They have an ownership who really cares about the team. I mean, hey, listen, you want to say, hey, I own a football team, I care about it. But let's be honest.
Like Robert Kraft.
I mean, there are obviously owners that do that, but there are also organizations that won't spend the time. They won't put the money in. They don't really care.
Yep.
As far as I say, I think Irsay really cares about that organization and the management there, and I absolutely agree with you.
And I mean,
the fact
he's
that they'll put
grooming
something
his
together.
kids. It's a dynasty to
Yeah.
take over this team.
Yeah.
Plus, I said the city is behind them.
Yeah.
I've been to Indianapolis, been to Lucas Oil Stadium.
Do you see
so
anything cool there?
Do I get to plug the Monkey Rodeo?
I would assume you would.
Monkey Rodeo.
Shall I
us
tell
more.
you a little bit
Tell us
about the
more.
Monkey Rodeo?
Yes.
This was a special game. Let's flash back 2 years. We're going to see Colts versus Texans. A youngish J.J. Watt, who was blasting across the field. Nonetheless, it's Chuck Pagano's first game back from his cancer treatment. The stadium is arush with emotions. Just when you think the day couldn't get any better. Out comes the halftime show. Namely, capuchin monkeys wearing tiny little Colts jerseys on the back of border collies with little lassos herding goats.
This is
You
the
heard
best
it
thing
here
ever.
first.
This
I
is the
mean-
best
Please,
thing ever.
if you do anything other than watch this on YouTube this week, immediately thereafter, go Google Monkey
Rodeo. Yes, absolutely.
It's amazing. It's as cool as it sounds. I don't know which was better, the game, the really awesome new stadium. No.
I wasn't
Monkey
there.
Rodeo
I know
for the
what's
win.
better.
Monkey Rodeo for the win. my husband's first ever NFL game live, and I don't think I could show him a better one.
Yeah.
Okay, that's enough talk about the monkey rodeo.
Yeah, let's
as
get
great
some-
as it was.
there's
Go
some
out
other
and
stuff
watch
going
it
on.
after you watch the show. In the meantime, however, we got something special here. We, after the game this week, after the game last week, sent away to Foxborough for a special AFC game ball. Not this one. Now, this
Yeah.
one's a little light, but hang on. Hang on, we got something here. This has actually been shipped direct from Foxborough.
Direct from Foxborough.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
amazing. It's still got a little mud on it. This is actually one of the game
Game
balls
ready.
that Tom Brady used during the game, which he apparently didn't notice was slightly underinflated. And we're going to talk about that a little now.
Wait, can one of us be Stewie for the remainder of the game?
This is what we talk about when we talk American sports. Forget the scores.
Yeah.
Forget the games. Let's talk about how much air is in our balls, huh? Let's get out here.
Exactly.
I've been waiting all day.
Yeah. This is what drives us as Americans. So to discuss the now named deflategate and all of the craziness around it, we're going to let Dave kick it off, and he's going to take the pro-Patriots
Of course I am.
It's hard to believe.
Shocker.
And then
Ausnahmsweise.
I will offer a rebuttal, kind of
Since
playing
Mark's
devil's
not here.
advocate, because Mark is not here. This was originally his gig, so if I fall a little short, you can rest assured that there will be some additional fire come the actual Super Bowl show. But go for it, Dave.
Okay, let's rewind a little bit about the Patriots and the Americas team. 9/11 had just happened.
Excuse me, is someone gonna release an eagle in this segment?
Deflate gate.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And 9/11.
9/11 had
rewind.
just happened. Now, I'm building up a little scenario here. Why
apparently,
America
yes.
hates the Patriots. 9/11 had just happened. The season was bumped back a week due to security reasons. And America's looking for a new hero. As the Patriots went on to steal an improbable Super Bowl victory against the dominant St. Louis Rams at the time.
Yeah, we all loved that. Everybody was rooting for everybody except Kurt Warner's crazy.
I'm sure. With no
mullet hair
timeouts,
life
with
was
no
rooting for
timeouts,
the-
the clock running, a young Tom Brady marched his Patriots down the field and set up an Adam Vinatieri game-winning 48-yard field goal as time expired, and Brady won the MVP. Now, during the next few years, the Pats would go on to win 2 more Super Bowls and cement themselves as the newest dynasty on the American sports scene. Now, nobody saw this coming, and it has lasted for 15 years, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, New England has been so good and so dominant for so long that other fans, the NFL and America in general, basically are over them. Okay, now take this in consideration.
shine is
But
off.
America has the tendency to do this. When someone is at rock bottom, we like to pull the trap door. We saw this with the New York Yankees. We recently saw it with Miami Heat. We see it with every sports team that gets on a run. You've got Kobe Bryant and the Lakers.
Can't disagree with your statements here.
Well, the
Dave.
teams that succeed. People are out right now calling for Bill Belichick's head and Tom Brady's. Now, Tom Brady, who might go down to be the greatest quarterback that ever played the game. Think about that a minute, ladies and germs. The greatest quarterback ever to play the game, surpassing his childhood idol, Joe Montana. History will give America perspective once the Patriot fatigue has worn off and Brady retires and Belichick, well, we'll probably never retire. But you understand what I mean. As time goes by, let's not forget the steroid stealers of the 70s. Or I won't even talk about the Cowboys and their cocaine back in the 80s and 90s. Hello?
It's a hell of a
But,
job.
and we
Is that-
get
is
it,
that
this
how we forget
deflate
about
gate.
it? Is that-
Anytime there's something on, I mean, every time there's something on, we got Lewinsky gate, we got Bill gate, we got deflate gate. Every time there's something going on, we get it with this Watergate. This is not World War III, ladies and gentlemen, okay? And to think that Brady might not have anything to do with it is short of ridiculous. Maybe he has, of course he has, but who does it and who really cares? Aaron Rodgers admits that he actually overinflates his balls. Admits.
He prefers his.
He prefers his balls to be overinflated.
Yeah,
I don't believe he ever
understand
claimed
the
to do
difference.
it himself.
We can get into this in a minute as soon as I get through my points. Brad Johnson actually paid someone to doctor his balls before Super Bowl 37. Do you remember Matt
gonna be able to
Leinart?
make it?
Matt Leinart always tickled
Leinart.
with his balls.
Yeah.
And Peyton Manning is so anal that he will go check each and every ball twice before the game.
This is.
Now, real experts, and not your Monday morning quarterbacks here,
Yeah.
will actually tell you that it's a disadvantage. The ball will lose velocity.
But it will be easier to catch.
We won't go into that. Spygate.
No counterpoint. There is no counterpoint.
We will go into this later. Spygate is over. They have paid their dues. Shall we forget the integrity of the game? I don't think so. The media, this is a media created.
Wish I had
Indianapolis
a flag to wave
Colts
behind
created.
him right now.
Crying over spilt milk created fiasco at the highest level. It is jealousy, it is envy, it is pitchfork and torches.
We need a judge battle for
America basically hates the Patriots instead of sitting back like we should do and enjoy two well-deserved teams going into the Super Bowl. The witch hunt continues. Now this is just air, people. It's air in a pigskin. Get over it, keep it real, and enjoy the game. And I tell you one thing. In New England, we smoke the ball. Just like we did the Colts.
I don't even know where to go with that stuff.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
All right. Okay. Counterpoint.
Smoke them just like we did the Colts.
Counterpoint. Okay, I will admit up front that I don't have the passion to argue this that Dave has on the side of the Patriots. And I don't have the passion against the Patriots that Mark is going to bring on Sunday.
Oh, I'm sure he will.
So what I've got is somebody that's kind of in the middle. I see both sides of the argument, but I'm going to argue the other side because that's what I'm in here to do today. So, first off, we all hate the Patriots. Okay, yeah, everybody's a little tired of the Patriots. Fair enough. But to say that every single team that ever does this is I think a bit inaccurate. I think for the most part, most Americans liked the Chicago Bulls all through their run in the 90s in basketball.
Well, that's because of Jordan.
I hear very few people complain, other than the fact that they're a little boring, about, say, the San Antonio Spurs, also in the NBA. They've won 4 championships and been dominant for even longer than the Patriots have in their sport. These guys go out and do it right. There's never a hint of scandal around them. They're hardworking. They're nose to the grindstone guys. And I think that there is room in sport for a winning team like that does not engender immediate hatred. So I do think it exists. However, there is some argument to your point. I get it's not completely without merit. I mean, I myself have gone from liking the Patriots to, I don't hate them, but I'm tired of them. Definitely, I've gone on that run. However, I don't think that really influences how I feel about this particular gate. For me, this is all about the rules and when it's okay to break them and when it's not. And he talks about Aaron Rodgers being someone who has admitted to preferring the balls a certain way and to even influencing it.
What's the difference?
To me, the big difference is when I've heard him talk about it, and I've gone back and reread this, he's talked about, hey, I have my guys push the limits. Push it up as high as it can, give it to the refs, and make them get it right. Make them do their job. My understanding of this is, and we are still missing a few key details, which I'll also mention. My understanding of this is, however, they gave the refs one set of balls, the refs signed off on it, and it looks like after that point in time, they went in and made a change. So there is deliberate obfuscation. They're deliberately going in and doing it afterwards.
Allegations, ladies and gentlemen.
Allegations, fair enough. These have yet to be proved completely. So that's the big difference to me. If you give it to the refs and the refs don't do their job, then it's on the refs.
I think it's on the refs.
If you give it to the refs, no. If you give it to if you get caught cheating, after the fact, I mean, if you get caught cheating,
Brad Johnson paid someone to doctor his balls.
Then Brad Johnson should be in trouble as well. I agree, but it doesn't.
Just because somebody else did it doesn't mean it's because there were 2 of you.
Yeah.
Then it's okay.
People, it's air. I'm sure a ball with a little bit of air out of it.
There's a lot of hot air coming out right here as well.
The reason that Garrett LeBlanc ran for over 140 yards.
No, I don't think it influenced this game. But there's another argument right there. You're going to win it by 30 points, and you still feel the need to cheat. That's not a good thing. That's not necessarily how we work in America. So I don't particularly like it. I don't like it.
Oprah.
If you get caught, you're in trouble.
Springer.
That's how it is. We play. Gaylord Perry back onto baseball. He admitted that he cheated for 30 years. He only got caught once at the end. So it's in our mind that, hey, they got caught this once. How many other times have they been cheating, and what other ways? This is an argument, and it's a discussion.
I think it's just, the media chasing its tail again. They're looking for something. I mean, people forget the steroid Steelers. I'm not sure none of you can remember them playing. I actually remember watching them with Mean Joe Green and Arrowhead Holmes and these guys. After all that dynasty that came out, oh my God, almost the entire defensive team was eating steroids for breakfast with their cornflakes.
But that doesn't mean it's
right.
right.
It doesn't matter.
Just
but
to say everybody breaking
sees
the
it, but we still talk about the Steeler dynasty.
Yeah.
Let's not forget the Cowboys of the 90s who won 3 Super Bowls, and they did it with Michael Irvin and half the other team that was doing cocaine at the time. Not air, people, cocaine. Now, one guy, actually, Michael Irvin, is on like one of the #1 shows in America right now. Time has a way of wounding all heels or healing all wounds, in any way you want to think about it. But I think as time goes by, we'll see the perspective of this, and it's not such a big deal.
The Pats have gone out on a limb on this one. Robert Kraft came out. He said, you're going to apologize to our guys. Our guys did nothing wrong. I think they're pushing it. I think they're taking this too far, and I think he's counting on his friendship with Goodell to push this under the rug, and I don't think it's going to happen. I think he's pushing it too hard. Now, where they're going to get away with it, and I think they are going to get away with it.
Of course we are.
Where they're going to get away with it is
See,
that
no,
this
if you
is
say
not...
we're going to get away with it, and you go, of course we are. You
Because
just
it's nothing,
admitted,
people. It's air.
You just admitted that there was something to get away with.
I work, when I'm at the sports school in Modeling, and I heat up these basketballs, and we go out and play. I can swear to God, an hour and a half later, that ball has lost its pressure.
They do. They lose pressure.
Yeah, because that's a
Pressure going
state-funded
outside.
middle school basketball. You couldn't keep one of those inflated
No, this is
during.
semi-private.
Where they're going to get away, with it, guys, is that there is no compulsion to testify here. The NFL has no way to force this. They've currently found a guy, a person of interest, who they saw taking the balls off camera, coming back. That's who they think may have done it at this point. He's
Was
an
it
equipment
Belichick?
manager. No.
Think
but
Brady knew something about it?
Yes.
Yes. This guy's got his hands on the ball the entire game. Of course
You know
he knows
what?
something about it.
As a Patriots fan, I can assure you our bars are rock hard. Okay? Firm.
They're going to get
Like
away with it.
Plymouth Rock, they are.
They're going to make this guy a scapegoat. He's going to say he did it all on his own. There's going to be no way to prove otherwise. There's going to be some sort of,
A
maybe
severance package.
Let me go back in a little bit more history. Now, the Patriots, over the last 15 years, have done this with one quarterback,
1781.
one coach. Montana basically did it with the same group of guys, Taylor, Rice. Understand? Steelers did it with the same group of guys. Frank
what is it?
Montana, Rice wasn't there
Lynn
to the
Swann.
last two for Montana, but go on.
Joe, understand what I'm talking about. Now, Patriots have done it first, second, third, and now it looks like be the fourth, but 2 and 3, 4 entirely different teams.
So
That is a big Ablenkung to use the
actually,
German from the actual.
I think there's a different. I'm just going to throw this out there. Joe Montana, same thing. He had two people. He had 2 Super Bowls with Rice. He had 2 without. He had 3 Super Bowls with Craig. He had 1 without. There wasn't a lot of consistency on that 49ers team. There was a lot of turnover there. There was
In a very
consistency for
short
the last.
time that they did it because they were crap.
It was over 10 years. 81 to 90. It was a 10-year run, and that first team was almost completely different than the team that won it in the last 2.
I think the fact of the matter is that the Patriots, in all likelihood, 100%, well, okay, in all likelihood, 99% deserve to be in this game, no matter what. I just think it's really a shame that there's such a scandal hanging over its head, where then you have to call everything into question if it happened in this game. Did it happen before? In what manner? By whom?
I hate to agree with Dave on this scenario,
As do
especially
we all.
because it's such a fun thing to talk about. But let's look, and Joel brought this up briefly at the beginning as well. It's the perspective here and what is acceptable cheating, for lack of a better term, and what is unacceptable cheating, for lack of a better term. Right now in the NFL, if you get busted for this thing, you know what the fine is? $20,000.
There's his argument. That's the argument he should make.
Nothing.
That's the argument
It's nothing.
he should make.
The NFL doesn't care about it. I mean, they care about it now because it's in the news and it's a big deal. And let's have some build up to the game. And we can't just talk about Marshawn Lynch all day long and his inability to hold a press conference.
Skittles.
We got to talk about some other stuff as well. And and everybody has their opinion on this topic. And so many people are just rushing to things. I've heard the scientific thing that a ball with less air in it will not fly as far.
No, it loses velocity.
Just a second, I agree with you. then 5 minutes later, you hear Mark Brunell on ESPN stating, with the ball that's not pumped up as much, I can throw the ball a lot further.
That's just squash.
2 minutes later, you hear Steve Young saying, you know what, it's not really a big deal. It's not, sure, maybe a small, tiny little advantage, hence the reason why it's a $20,000 fine and nothing bigger. It's something to talk about. Everybody's going this way and that way and everything. For what? What do we really know at this point? Everything that we know at this point has been hearsay. Yes, the thing that we do know at this point is the quote. Thus far, it supports the conclusion that footballs that were underinflated were used by the Patriots in the first half. I quote from the NFL. What else do we know? We don't know anything. We've heard rumors the fact that 11 out of 12 balls were deflated. People have stated up to about 15%, so 2 pounds of pressure. But to be honest with you, we don't know enough yet, in my opinion. It's all hearsay. It's all nonsense. And in the end, a 20 grand for the fact that the NFL thinks something about it, it's not a big deal.
20 grand is nothing.
No.
20 grand
For these guys, no.
Exactly.
For me, that's a bit of a big deal.
No,
But
that should be your argument right there, because where we're going to see an interesting thing is how hard the NFL comes down. If they find it guilty and they come down harder than they
can't come after the fact.
I want to say one last thing on this
But
topic.
they do.
I want to say one last thing on this topic. And there's been so many people out there calling for Tom Brady's head on this. For what, again? For information that you're hearing from hearsay. Jerome Bettis, I'm so disappointed in Tom Brady. He had the chance to sit up there in front of everybody and say, yes, I did it. I'm gonna. And then all these other people, Troy Aikman, there's no way that the football would have. I mean, listen, it very well may have had something have happened. But listen, if we get this information back, and of the 11 balls that were theoretically deflated, let's say 10 of them were just slightly under. So that bottom line is 12.5. If we get a bunch back that were 12.4, it's a non-issue. So for me, let's revisit this situation when we have all the information, which again, we very well may never, because NFL is a private organization, and what they decide to share and what they decide not to share can be completely different. And how appropriate also is for them to just delay all this stuff, sort of like the Ray Rice investigation and coming back. It's a bit of a trick that the NFL is doing as well. Put it behind us. Let's let the season go by. People will start forgetting about this a little bit more, and we move on. I'm ready to move on. Super Bowl, what is it, 59? 49 right now. Be there, be square.
Yeah.
The one thing of that game, and we didn't mention, why Tom Brady was still playing deep late into the fourth quarter is beyond me.
No, that was dumb.
I was sitting there eating my grilled cheese and tomatoes, sitting there going, oh my
Get
God.
him out of the game.
Get this guy out of the game.
Finally something to get nervous about now.
that was the only thing that put Dave on edge in that game.
You know what I was nervous about, and I mentioned this, watching that NFC game, my worst case scenario suddenly became, okay, the Packers hold on, they win the game, and Aaron Rodgers isn't able to go in the Super Bowl, and we've got a Matt Flynn versus the Patriots Super Bowl, and how horrible that would be. Sorry, Matt.
I think this is going to be a great Super Bowl.
I'm excited.
I'm looking forward to it from a competitive standpoint. Okay, enough talk about deflated balls. Let's move this one back.
I'll borrow some.
Bring this one. This one I think is a little closer to what they had anyway.
And it is cold outside. He pumped this up before leaving.
It was. But then again, I did leave it alone in a room with a Patriots fan for a minute, so who knows what happened. Okay, we're ready for the second half, and we'll be back with you shortly. See you in a minute. Let's lift a glass. Cheers it in.
Cheers it in.
Cheers it in. Everybody. Hey, all right, we're back.
And
I
drunk.
just say star. Not quite yet, but by the end of this.
On our way. All right, fair enough. We are ready for talking about the upcoming game. Enough of these games and deflated balls discussion. Let's move on and talk about the Super Bowl. Super Bowl 49 in Phoenix, Arizona. And we're going to lead it off. We're going to let Philly Chris talk about Seattle's path to a Super Bowl victory, a repeat performance.
You want this again, huh?
Yeah. We want it all, man.
You want it?
Let's do
You want
it.
to go through this again?
Hey,
I'm
what do you
here
need to do? What do you need to do?
So I don't get fined.
Oh,
Here so I don't get fined.
like it. Good. All right, next.
I'm
Dave
here
is going to talk about...
So I don't get fined. Listen, I'm not going to lie. The key to the Super Bowl, I got a little nervous after the Green Bay game. Marshawn Lynch did not go to the media, did not make himself available for the media. Doesn't really have to say much.
Sad.
But he didn't make himself available. I was a little nervous about that and how that may, kind of... But what has happened is that he's shown up twice so far. It's classic again. I'm here so I won't get fined. I can't remember 24 times or whatever the tally was as far as the questions were concerned. Second day it was, you know why I'm here. So he's establishing himself back in there. It's moving forward. And although earlier I was like, this is New England's game to win now. It's over. He's reasserted his dominance here.
He is.
And now
He's
I'm saying
good.
this is kind of a toss-up. So besides the fact that he's doing all the right things, what does Seattle need to do to win this football game? It may sound a little bit cliche, but they need to play Seattle football. What exactly does playing Seattle football mean? It means running the football hard. You know you got Marshawn Lynch there and Russell Wilson there to do that on the certain scenarios when he's going to run the ball as well. You play hard-nosed defense. We talked about it all season long. 3 seasons in a row, they've let up the fewest points in the NFL as far as defense is concerned. And we talked about this one more time. They gave up 5 turnovers last week, and they only gave up 22 points in that football game. I mean, talk about the fact that their defense is absolutely standard. So if they can continue to do that, I mean, that's fantastic. For me, the big key here is obviously limiting turnovers. If they can do all the other things right, and they can continue to limit the turnovers, which I was absolutely shocked to see because for the season, Russell Wilson had 20 touchdowns to 7 interceptions. That's nearly 3 touchdowns to 1 interception ratio, and he flipped it the other way and went even harder on the interception. 1 touchdown and 4 interceptions. If they can keep control of the football, if they can continue to run the ball well and play their hard-nosed defense, I mean, this is the direction that they need to be going in this football game. Other than that, try to contain Gronk, and you got yourself a football game. But really uncharacteristic for Wilson there. I think he is able to put the ball in his hands a little bit more, not give the ball away as much as he did last week. I think this is going to be a good game, and just play Seattle football, work hard, be beasts.
I like the fact that Skittles stopped in the middle of the interview to point out which one of the female reporters was looking good.
Yeah.
He kept to his phrasing except for, hey, you're looking good. Yeah?
It turned into a lounge act at some point. It was like, seeing you. What's she drinking? Yeah. All right.
That was nice. That was a nice touch. But other than that, he stuck to character. Because the guy's unshakable.
Skittles or unskittles. I mean, he's...
And he did apparently do his media conference for Skittles. So that
exactly.
He's come out and done one, but for Skittles.
Yeah.
So that's good to know.
I'd like to see Marshall Lynch skedaddle myself, but
I think he might be doing some skedaddling in that game.
I think this game has many sides, many key matches up in here. You've got the Seattle defense against the Patriots defense, and I think Seattle does have the slight edge here. We can all agree on this, but the Patriots certainly were not too shabby this year. Bill Belichick, since 2012, has built up his 3 guys that he used to have in McGinnis and Bruschi. What's his name?
Teddy Bruschi.
Thank you. And since 2004, we really haven't had these pass rush guys. Offensively, I think the Patriots definitely have the edge here. But Seattle, we saw, can be an explosive at any given minute. That's the Green Bay Packers. Key matchups, Patriots offensive line against Seattle's front 4. New England packs more beef on the offensive line. They're a little bit more stronger, but Seattle has the speed. I think you need to watch out for Seattle pressuring Tom Brady from the outside. The running games are about even, if anything, in the last game has anything to show. It just depends which running back is going to show up this game for the Patriots.
Yeah, but from a consistency side of things, I think you got to take your hats off to the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, I got some statistics on this. We also got Brandon Browner, who last year was with the Super Bowl Seahawks. He knows a lot about Pete Carroll's scheme and how it works. I'm sure him and Belichick have been having tea all week long. And you got Dale Revis, who is versing Sherman and Maxwell on the other side. Two great secondaries right there going on. On the other key players, you got Patrick Chung, Arrington, you got Michael Bennett. Seattle does have a few injury issues in the secondary, and they're not really talking much about it in the media, and I don't think they want to, but Sherman is hurt.
Haven't heard an update. How is
No,
it?
you haven't.
Is anything said?
He's practiced, limited practice, and also I think Brian Maxwell's also gimping a little bit with a shoulder, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, all that being said, the Patriots actually had more interceptions, 16-13, a better sack ratio. They had 40, only gave up 26, where Seattle had 37 sacks, but they gave up 42 sacks on Wilson. You can get to Wilson, and that's what the Patriots are going to do. It's all in the trenches. I mentioned this all year long. It's the trenches, it's the trenches, it's the trenches.
Stick
I
with
think
it.
we've ever played a game outside of the
No, we
trenches.
haven't.
Nah. But I think protecting the quarterback early establishes a win or establishes a good. Now, the Patriots also up on fumbles. When you compare the quarterbacks themselves, you got Brady against Wilson. Brady has a quarterback rating of 97.4, Wilson a 95. Comparing that to two others, you've got Luck, who's got 96.5, and you've got Romo's the same as Brady at 97.5. So you got great quarterbacks at the helm. You got the clash of the young versus the old, the wise versus the cocky. Two different and contrasting
Wait.
Which one's the cocky? That's right.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm pretty sure they're both cocky.
Now, both teams have both great leaders on their team. Brady may have the experience and wisdom that comes with age, naturally, and this is a gimme, and can read a defense probably than anybody else right now in the NFL. He can call an audible. If
Out
not
of the
better.
teams that are left,
Yeah,
you mean?
well, no, I think Brady can read a defense better than anyone else, and he's well
What
coached.
about Johnny Manziel?
Ooh.
Johnny Manziel can't
Good one.
read.
Johnny Football?
I don't think
Yeah.
he can read the headlines that
No,
say
he
he's
couldn't
getting out
read-
of
he
Columbus
couldn't
or
read
getting out of
exit
Cleveland.
stage left. But on that note, you got to remember Wilson can break away at any time for a quick 15 yards going down the line of scrimmage on 3rd and long. Now, special teams, so you have to give it to New England. With Danny Iola and Julius Edelman returning kicks, you could see one of them at any time run for the big one, and the Seattle has yet to run it into the end zone on a punt or kickoff all year long. The longest is 37 yards.
Be nice if they had Percy Harvin back right about now, huh?
Now,
Maybe not, though.
more of the special teams. Steve Gostkowski is about as good as it gets. He is 24 for 25 at attempts over 45 yards and more this season.
That's impressive.
That's impressive. And then going into the Super Bowl, you need a guy who not going to shank it. 35 out of 37 all year. But the Seahawks kicker, Stefan Hauschka, I think is how you pronounce it.
I believe that's correct.
Also put up some decent numbers. Now, earlier Super Bowl champions were all based on defense. I think the Patriots had this core defense again like they did years ago in 2004. But having this nice trio is nice, but containing Wilson, I think, has to be one of the toughest feats in football right now. And Green Bay did give us some hints for about 56 minutes on how to do that. The trouble with facing Wilson, and this sounds a little funny, there's nobody else, no better quarterback in the NFL, better at throwing the ball away. Now, seriously.
Yeah.
Wilson often makes these incredible plays just to escape the pressure and miraculously avoids taking a sack. But I think the Patriots are going to do something like put Nikovic or maybe even Jamie Collins on Wilson the whole day long. I think it's going to come to the front line, and I think it's secondaries. I just think who's the better quarterback right now? Is it Revis or is it Sherman?
Quarterback?
Cornerback.
Oh, excuse me. Sorry.
That's a quarterback. Is it Revis or it's Sherman? I think in about 72 hours we're able to tell.
Yeah. I mean, Sherman played a lot of that last game hurt, and he was out there kind of being the tough guy, warrior counterpart to Aaron Rodgers, which was fun. But I think he's feeling all better now, and that'll.
But I think
that'll be
having
exciting.
Browner gives him an edge, and I know Browner knows Pete Carroll's scheme better than anyone else does on the Patriots.
Yeah, fair enough.
But like I mentioned before, the Pats only had 26 sacks. I say only 26, but the Seattle had 42 sacks. That means Russell Wilson is not immune to pressure and going down.
So you think the Patriots are going to be able to keep it close? That's what I'm hearing.
Well, I think the Patriots are.
I think they're up for the Nobel Peace Prize at this point in time.
Predictions later. But the Patriots had this core defense that they had in their glory years. And with, they've got Hightower, Collins, and Jones right now. All SEC guys.
Is there a
But
way?
we're talking about a Big Ten quarterback showdown.
Yep. There
We
you
are.
go. That's the important.
We
thing.
are.
Yeah.
Michigan gets
Brady.
And
Wisconsin. Are we going to be able to work in some sort of discussion about World War II here? I know we've gone back and touched on 9/11.
And you're talking a lot about the trenches. Maybe that's even
trenches.
World War
One,
I,
I think.
actually.
Yeah, okay, a little World War One action.
Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, you know exactly that the game is won on the trenches. If you can get to the quarterback,
We're
if
gonna
you can
inflate
stop
this
the
ball.
run.
This ball is inflated with mustard gas.
Yeah, what I got
There you
out of
go.
that is
We're sitting in a cellar in Vienna. That maybe not be a cool thing to say.
okay. What I got out of this is Tom is anal. The Patriots had the best tight end in the game. New England packs more beef, but their balls are deflated. So how this plays out, I don't know, but
You know, if they decide to go man-man coverage, and Seattle plays a lot of man-to-man coverage, okay?
Walking right into it.
Yes, I am. Who's going to cover Gronkowski? And when you cover Gronkowski, you got maybe Tim Wright, even Nate Solden running in for one. How do you like that? He's carrying that thing like it's a handicapped baby going into the end zone.
Excuse me.
Didn't you watch that? He hold that thing like this, running in the end zone, and gets tripped in, but touchdown.
If you
Doesn't
ever have a
matter.
handicapped baby, remind me not to invite
not
Dave
to invite
over.
Dave to that party.
You got to
Fair
see
enough.
the baby.
No topics are off limits here.
No, but you saw
the
you
beauty
see running with the thing like
Yeah.
this.
Chris, what do you think, man?
Listen,
think you said
what
enough.
are we doing? We saying the predictions?
Yeah, let's
now at
just
this point,
let's
or what?
let's.
I mean, we're
well, let's do bold predictions in a minute. Let's just talk about the game for a minute. What's your take after
Yeah, how do you
Dave's?
see this?
I mean, listen, Dave has a lot of things to say.
True,
And obviously, they tend to be about the New England Patriots.
I've got nothing but facts, ladies and
And
gentlemen.
what I'll also say about what Dave has to say quite often is that he says people who I'm not even sure if they actually exist. Like, was that guy actually a left guard and then came over and took the center spot? I mean,
He's like,
I'm
and
not
Phil
quite really
Phillips
sure
really
exactly
showed up
what
last week,
happens
and I'm
in the
like,
whole thing.
he's the ball boy. You know, like,
I
Who
mean,
we now know is an important part of their team. So
Listen,
that's
listen, one
fair
of
enough.
the one thing that I would say at this point is I think the two best football teams have made it into the Super Bowl this year.
1-1.
I would not. I mean, listen, we would not have said this week 5 through week 9 or whatever, but both of these teams have established themselves really as teams to beat week in and week out. You know, this is not your New York Football Giants who get in a wild card 8-8 and win the Super Bowl
No,
against
not at all.
Against who did they?
Who
Who do
I
they
don't
normally?
remember. It's like- it
who do
seems
they
like they
normally
beat
beat in the
somebody
Super
that was
Bowl? I
good.
can't remember.
was that,
God,
was
yeah,
that the year
anyway.
Cleveland
Baltimore?
made it?
No.
No.
No, Baltimore beat them when they
Yeah,
played.
no.
It wasn't Baltimore.
It doesn't
Somebody-
really
yeah,
matter who they
whatever.
actually beat. The
New
point,
England.
the
We're
point,
We're over it.
the point,
We're over
the
it.
point also is, I think you touched on it a little bit earlier as well. I think this is the right matchup. Yeah, maybe Green Bay deserved to win that game last week, but with Aaron
No,
Rodgers,
they didn't.
Yeah, okay, yeah. But anyway, in the end, with Aaron Rodgers limping the way that he was limping, and with the fact that Seattle has been I can't remember what it is now, like 12 of their last 2, I think, is what their record is at this point, or maybe 14 of the last 2 actually. They're playing solid football. It's an exciting matchup. You bring the heat from the defensive side of things with the Seattle Seahawks each week, and you have a very strong offense, obviously led by Tom Brady. And whether or not they can continue to establish the run is going to be an interesting thing for me, because you take 1 week before then, and what was the running statistics like with New England
Yeah,
versus,
I said
versus
that
Baltimore?
game, we were
so
playing
for
a
me,
wall.
this is a major key question mark
That's
at this
the
point.
key.
I
That's the key.
think Smoke 'em if you got him blunt has done a heck of a job coming in there. He did a heck of a job for you guys last year as well when he was playing for you guys. But I think there's a lot of inconsistency there. And if you talk about a team against the run, and that is the Seattle Seahawks, I think that ends up putting a lot of pressure on there. I'm excited about the football game, which actually I couldn't really say that I was thinking about that early on in the playoff situation, because every time that the Eagles are out of the playoffs, I immediately lose interest. But because you got 2 high-profile teams here who have played fabulous football all season long, except maybe at the beginning for the New England and for Seattle in the middle, it's the right choice at the right time. I'm excited about it. Should we pick who I think is going to win the game or whatever?
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, listen, I've said it at the very beginning. I know you guys will probably go the other way because you both said it in the other direction at the beginning. I had Seattle in the Super Bowl. I had them losing to the Broncos. Obviously, that didn't happen. So now my only team left in here is the Seattle Seahawks. I say Seattle wins this football game. Not as much offense as maybe you would expect as far as New England is concerned. I think it's a tight one. 25-20 Seattle.
Okay.
Oh.
I'm going to go the other way. I've got New England winning 24-20, and I think it's going to hinge quite a bit, like you said, on the ground game for both teams. I don't think it's going to be a crazy high-scoring game. However, there are going to be some points on the board. I think both teams are going to have a hard time stopping the run. They're both very good defenses, but I think they're both going to be keyed to the pass a little bit, and we're going to see both ground games take off. I think Blunt's going to be able to run. I think he might have been able to run against Baltimore, but they didn't try. They said, you know what?
Screw
this.
Yes.
We're going to throw and beat us that way. You guys stop our throwing game, stop our passing game. It didn't happen, and so they won the game that way. I think if they don't wanted to run, they would have been able to run against Baltimore. Maybe not as effectively, obviously not as effectively as they did against Indianapolis. But I do think their running game is pretty solid. Now, the big question there is whether or not it's actually going to be Blunt getting the ball or one of their other nameless running backs. Probably somebody they sign. Gray, or somebody they sign off the waiver wire this week and somehow get him into the game. Probably
A
backdoor
Canadian
channels.
football player.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Who knows?
Schwinn.
But they'll find a way, and I'm gonna have New England winning it. But I think the key to the game is that New England running game, because I think Seattle's too tough a defense to be one-dimensional against, and I think if New England can't run the ball, then this prediction's going to be wrong, and it's going to be tough. I think they've got to be able to run the ball. I think they need to get in there and establish it early. I think they will, but I think that's the key to the game. That's the one big key to this game for me, is whether or not New England can run the ball, whether or not Blunt can get in there and provide a counterpunch to Brady, and if so, it's going to be a knockout. I like it. I'm excited.
I'm just praying for a game more interesting than last year's.
There you go.
That's actually really my...
Well,
and also a game that does not start with a trick, or I wouldn't say a trick play, but an unusual play. Because last year's Super Bowl resulted in me having to stop everything to explain to an entire bar full of people what a safety is.
Yeah, fair enough.
I've... surprisingly, I'm going to pick the Patriots on this.
What? Get out. Get out.
Like I said, in the trenches. I talked about the trenches all season long. I totally agree with Joel. Patriots need to establish a running game. I mean, it's an absolute must, I think. I don't think it's the end of the world if they cannot establish too much of one, because Brady went with 7 different receivers last week, and when they played Baltimore, they had 9 different receivers. 9 different receivers. Look for
6 and 9.
Look for Sean Vereen to come out of the backfield. Who's going to cover Gronk? I mean, that's tough. Gronk is tough to cover. You might even see Belichick sneak out of Nick Solon, or even the rarely played Tim Wright, their second tight end, come out and do something.
Solon scored a touchdown.
Look for some trickery. I look for hard, firm, inflated balls on both sides. And I think it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be a very good Super Bowl, but I got the Patriots winning this one 31-24. I think the score's a little higher.
Trick plays on both ends. We saw the fake field goal last week. I think both teams are going to have to pull all the stops to keep the other ones off their balance, because they've been prepping, and now Bill Belichick, king of homework and film.
My God.
I don't think Pete Carroll's exactly foreign to watching film and researching, so I think it's going to have to be...
Two hardworking guys.
There's going to be some... it's a question of fashion. Do you prefer a cutoff hoodie or dock shoes?
Dock shoes or hoodie. Yeah.
For the Austrian fans out there, Pete Carroll actually got his NFL start with the Patriots. Went his first year 10-6, and went 9-7, then went 8-8, and then said, "Okay, sayonara."
I'm heading to USC.
Went to USC, played a little West Coast offense. Robert Kraft brought in Belichick, and as we know, the rest is history. But so
that's a fun fact. Yeah,
Belichick and Carroll know each other quite well. I mean, Pete Carroll actually started his NFL career 3 years as the head coach of the Patriots. Many people don't realize
Which
this.
means that those are the only 2 hires that Robert Kraft ever made as head coach are Pete Carroll and Bill Belichick.
And they're both in the Super Bowl.
And they're both in the Super Bowl this year. That's fun. Of course, that also means that's the only fire he's had to make was. So.
And it looked like it probably paid off all right for him.
It looked like it paid off all right.
Pete Carroll said he was probably not ready for prime time at that time. It was probably still a little.
Let's get some bold predictions in there. Something fun, something to look for. I'll kick it off. My bold prediction is that LeGarrette Blount scores 2 TDs in this game. 2 TDs. Twice on the ground. What do you
My
got?
bold prediction is that Dave slams back 15 beers by halftime.
No.
And we have to tell him the score the next day.
So we're talking
Now
about
listen, from a bold prediction side of things, I don't think it's much going to be a surprise if Russell Wilson comes back and has a good game, but I think he's going to go over 100 yards in the ground and over 250 in the air and for 3 touchdowns. Bang.
Wow.
Katie?
Damn.
Oddly enough, I never put in my prediction for who to win.
Okay. Who do you got?
I was thinking that as
So,
well.
really?
Sorry.
I actually have the Patriots winning.
Oh!
That's all you lost.
Just waiting.
You got the Patriots. Oh, my
Here
gosh.
is
Oh my gosh.
here's why, and this is my bold prediction. I say everybody's going to rally around Brady to make this the fourth in a row, or not fourth in a row, the
Culmination, yeah.
holy. It's not a trifecta, it's now a quadfecta,
Quadfecta?
tetrafecta.
Yeah,
I'm not
I
sure.
don't know.
At any rate, I say everybody rallies around Brady to make this his final year. He goes out on top, and he has the wisdom to do so.
Wow. That's
It's
a bold
prediction.
What
That's a
else?
bold
What more
prediction.
do you want, really, in life? Yeah. Don't get greedy, kids. Don't get
All right,
greedy.
so
you
you-
got a hot wife, beautiful kids, all
From
Dave's,
Dave.
and
Yeah.
Thank you
I
for
think
taking care of
four
the kids,
Super Bowl
Tom.
rings, and a brilliant season means Brady hangs up
Goes
his
out on top.
But we
his
have to
helmet on top.
then wait, unless he announces it right after.
We won't
We'll
know.
have to wait on
We'll have to-
analyzing
yeah.
Katie's prediction, which is cool.
That's cool,
We have
that's
to do that
fine.
sometimes.
We got
Fine.
next season.
Yeah.
My bold prediction is that Amendola runs it all the way.
To the
Or
house.
takes it all the way for a touchdown on a kickoff or point return.
Okay.
And
No, I'm good with that.
And
That's
I-
still pretty bold.
And I don't think
And-
Gronk is going to be the big star as the receivers go. I think they're going to pull out some. Belichick's got some guys that he hasn't used on the practice squad.
Philly, what do you
They're
got,
gonna come
man?
out, yeah.
I already did it. So
You already
Russell
did his.
Wilson,
Russell Wilson.
Oh, the big
200,
Russell
over
Wilson.
200 in the air and over 100 on the ground.
Yep.
I mean, I think that'll be an interesting thing to see if they can do that. I mean, you're going to get your yardage out of
Get your yayas out.
You're
Yeah.
going to get out of Lynch anyway, and if you get that additional yardage out of
If
out of
Ha-Ha's gone, we got to get
Wilson
our
on the ground,
yayas
then
out.
bang.
Fair enough. Okay, well, it's looking good. I'm excited, and we're going to do a short show during the actual Super Bowl evening at Pointers Live, so if any of you are able to catch us there, please do so. Although I think we're pretty well sold out already. I think there's a few spaces at the bar open, so come on in. And in the meantime, you can also come watch the game here at the Golden Harp. They're going to be showing it. Katie's
got
going
a
to be
few
here.
places
so-
left.
I'll be
Yep.
working.
Okay, well, we look forward to it, and we look forward to talking about the game after it's over. We'll do a wrap-up show for the season, so thanks for coming out and joining us, and we'll
football.
see you later. Go football! Yeah!
Football.